Okay, one more thing might be this meeting will finish after a few minutes because it's a limited edition. So we will share the another link to join.
Okay. Neeraj, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so first I will give you information regarding what we will be covering in the business analysis course. Okay, so let's first understand why to learn the BA. Okay, because at present BA jobs are increasing in the market very good. And business analysis is a set of task knowledge and technique that requires to identify the business need and determine the solution. Because BA is the middle person. In each and every organization, business analysis is needed that will fill the gap between the requirement and the actual result. And BM will make sure that it will align to the strategic goal of the customer. So that's why business analysis is needed in each and every project, in each and every company. Okay. Now what we are going to cover in the course, let me give you some details. So the starting sessions will be the introduction sessions. What is a business analysis? Why BA is required? What is the goal? What is the IT hierarchy? Then we have a roles and responsibility of the BA, what BA needs to do, what BA don't have to do, what are the skill set that is required for the BA. Next, BA responsibilities, what BA has to do, what BA don't have to do, what are the dark sides of the BA, what are the general challenges that as a business analysis we face. Okay. Then SDLC, what is the SDLC life cycles? I'm not sure, but pretty much half of the people who are from IT background, they must be aware it. But some people who don't aware, for that we will see in details. And especially nowadays in the market, Agile and Scrum. So we will learn the Agile and Scrum in detail and how what BA needs to do, how BA needs to execute it from his speed. So that we will see in detail. After that, requirement analysis, how to analyze the requirement, how to gather the requirement, what is the difference between the functional and the non-functional requirement, what is the difference between the vision and the scope, that we are going to see in detail. So those topics, starting topics were the theoretical. Once the theoretical topics completes, we will start with the practicals, means how to create a BRD document, what are the different stages we have in the BRD document, how to create SRS document, that is a software requirement specification document. BRD means business requirement document. Then how to create a requirement traceability matrix doc, how to write a user stories, how to write the acceptance criteria. Then diagrams. What are the use case diagram, UML diagram, activity diagram, sequence diagram that BA needs to prepare. So how to create that? What are the different tools available to create those diagrams? With example of the live project that we will see in the detail. And then again, diagnosis technique, fishbone, is not analysis, how to solve the business problem, then basics of how to handle the change request, okay, how we can handle the when the scope is changed, lesson learned, timesheet, cost estimation, and very small topic of QA, that what is the quality assurance and the testing, because QA team write the test cases where VA will prepare the use cases. Okay, so generally in the interview question will be asked what is the difference between the use case versus test cases. So for that we will cover that topic, and at last we have a BA challenges and the project management challenges, and I will provide you some sample resumes so that you can modify your resumes, and what are the general question answers that will be asked in the interview, and one complete live project with how to write the requirements, how create BRD document, SRS document, how to create a use case diagram, activity diagram, sequence diagram. With example of the live project, we will see that, so that it will be very helpful to you when you go in the organization. So that is our complete course syllabus. So tell me if you guys have any question, we can discuss the question.
I have a question. Are we covering any tool apart from Visio or anything like Balsamic, Exor? As I can see in your slide, there is a wireframing mention. So
Yes.
which tool we are going to cover for that?
Yeah, we have planned to use the Draw.io tool. That is a pretty much free tool, so any one of you can pretty much prepare it and practice it. Okay, once you have a practice in the one tool, you can pretty much work easily on any other tool.
Okay.
How long is the project duration in the course duration?
I cannot hear you, Jaideep.
What is the course duration, total duration of the course?
Nitish will give you the course duration because we have clubbed the two, business analysis plus investment banking. So Nitish will tell you the complete course duration. Okay.
What was the question, Jaideep? What do you mean by course?
What will be the course duration?
Okay, so the course duration is business analyst workshop takes 22 hours, and investment banking workshop takes 22 hours. So overall, it will be 40 hours.
Okay.
Okay, I hope there is no further question. So I will hand over to the Kshitij who will explain about the investment banking.
Thanks a lot, Shraddha, and thanks, Nitesh, for the introduction. Now, let me know when you're able to see my screen. Are you guys able to see my screen now? Hello?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So, welcome all you guys. I believe because you are in this session, so you are interested in both to learn things about the investment banking, clubbing with the business analyst. Definitely, as Shraddha said, PA is one of the very, very critical role across like every industry and every company. And when you club it with investment banking, that's gonna be kind of a top-notch skill for you guys, because this is one domain which is always going to remain in demand, irrespective of what the current market situation is. Be it today's situation when all the companies are probably not doing very well and slightly worried about the future, but financial domain was always in demand, today is also in demand, and it's going to remain as it is. So this is one of the, I would say, a very, very important skill to have. So I'm not sure about the background of you guys, like if we can have a quick review, like if you have any idea about investment banking or just you are completely new to this. Just a very, very quick background of you guys, like what's your name, and so that I can go further. Meenal.
Yes. Hi, Kshitij. So, my name is Meena, and currently I'm working with New Vision Software and as a business analyst. So, total I'm having 10 years of experience, 5 years of experience in QA and 5 years of experience in BA. But in this investment banking, I'm completely new, and I want to, moving forward, I want to make my career in investment banking domain. So,
Okay.
I'm looking for this
Yeah,
opportunity.
that's good. Great. Akash. Hey, Akash, you there? Okay. Jaideep.
Yeah. So I'm basically a QA guy. I have over 10 plus years of experience in QA. And as I'm mainly in manual QA, I want to move BA profile. I'm not exactly a BA guy, but I would love to, like, that is my next
Okay.
area I want
And so your current domain is any specific domain or?
in domain for 6 years, 6 plus years in payment domain,
Okay.
US, and for last almost 4 years, I'm working in telecom domain.
Okay. That's good. Navneet.
Yeah, hi all. I am currently working in Fulcrum Digital. Recently, 6 months back, I have moved from QA to BA profile, and my experience in payment domain is around 2 years. And before that, I had experience in telecom.
Okay, Good, great. Sapna.
Yes, hi, this is Sapna. Currently I'm working with Allianz Technology as a business analyst. Prior to this, I was working, for 4 years I have been working as a business analyst. Prior to that, I was working as a QA for 4 years. And for investment banking, yeah, I'm totally, completely new to this topic. I have experience mainly in insurance, healthcare, and I have some experience in retail banking.
Okay, great. And we have Sushmita and yeah, Nelly. Okay.
Yeah, hi all.
Sushmita.
I'm Sushmita. I have over 9 years of experience, and I have recently last client I had is bank, but into investment banking I'm new. I'm looking forward to grow in investment banking. So, yeah.
Okay, great. And this Meenal is same as the earlier one, Meenal Hirukar, or it's different? Looks like same. Okay, great
Yeah,
guy.
same.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I think most of you has quite a good experience, and couple of them you have the payments domain experience, and like some of you are already into the BA. So that's really nice. So I think what I can get from the current group is most of you either looking to get into the business analyst, or you're already into the business analyst, and you also want to add on with the investment banking. So that's a nice thing. So, as Nitesh has already told about me that I'm working into the investment banking for almost like 13 years now, and my all over the experiences into the investment banking only. I started my CFA and I've completed that. Okay, so let's go further. Like, what all we gonna read or learn in this workshop for the investment banking? What's there for you guys? Just let me just okay, right layout. So we'll start with the introduction of the basics, like financial market. We'll talk about what the financial markets are, what is the objective of the financial market, why do we even need that, what are the different participants. Like, we already have some information, like we have the brokers, we have dealers, we have customers, investment bankers. So there are the different people who are involved in this whole market. So, and there's a specific role assigned to each of them. So we'll talk about what are the different participants. We'll talk about the different classification, which is always very confusing. So every time you'll go to the interviews for investment banking, the first thing comes up is like, what are the capital markets? What is a money market? How do you differentiate between primary and the secondary market? Or what are the exchange rate and over the counter markets? So first two sessions, what we'll be talking about, we'll be preparing a general base for the investment banking. We'll talk about what the capital markets are, why do we even need those, how do people come, collaborate, and work towards the, work for the markets, and different type of the classifications we have. So this is what the first two sessions will be, just setting up the base for you guys. And then another one session would be there for the basics, where we'll be talking about the terms which are across the industry. Like, we have a different classification, we'll come to that. So we'll talk about general financial terms which are important, like why do you want to invest, like why to invest and where to invest, what are the factors which affects the different interest rates, what are the factors which should impact your investments, what are the mutual funds. I think most of us invest in that. If somebody doesn't, I say start investing. We'll talk about the index funds, the difference between the mutual funds and the index funds, what are the exchange traded funds, the IPOs. Every now and then we talk about the different companies getting listed in the market. So we'll clear the concept of the IPOs, what are the initial public offers, how does it come into the play, where it does stand in the overall market context, how do we price an IPO, like whenever the company comes into the market. I think if somebody, some of you have heard about the IRCTC IPO that came around last year in September, October. So it shot up to almost double the price from the price it got listed. So how does that pricing happens? what are the role of the different depository institutions and the dematerialization. So we'll talk about some of the general terms related to the market, not specific to the capital markets, but how the overall, just to get the feel of the market. And then we'll start going into the depth of every section. So what we did is we have divided our investment banking section into four different classes. We'll talk about the equities, which is the most common to all of us. I think everyone in this group must be aware about the shares, the stock market. At least they have heard about it. If they have not invested, they must have heard about that. We'll talk about the fixed income markets, which is the most prevalent in the US or the other European markets. Like there's a contrast. In India, we heard more about the shares and the stocks. If you'll go to the US side or the European market, you'll hear more about the bonds rather than the equities. So we'll talk about the fixed income markets. So we'll take 2 sessions specifically for the equity, because this is like one of the base we have. And it's slightly, easy to understand because most of us are familiar with the different terms which is going to be used in the equities. Then we have the fixed incomes, and then we'll talk about the derivatives and commodities. So one of the classes I have not mentioned here, that would be the Forex one, that we'll be including for this group specifically. Prior to this, like depending on the group, we try and include the topics. For this group, I feel Forex is important, so we'll be including that. So now these are the details that what we will be covering specifically in each of these sessions. So when we'll start equity, we'll talk about what the equity means, starting from the basic definitions. Then different type of equities we have, like the shares, we have the callable shares, common shares, preferential shares. How does it differentiate with each other, and what is a different equity classification we have in the market. Then the different intermediaries, like you guys be having the mutual funds, you have the share brokers, you have the regulators. In India, we have a SEBI. In US, we have the SECs. In European market, we have the ESMA. So there are the different regulators of the every market. How does they deal with different regulations? And other intermediaries like the depository institutions or the clearing houses, the settlement houses. So we'll be talking about those intermediaries within the equity markets. Then we'll talk about the risk profiling of within the equity market. Like I'll say the common shares are more riskier than the preference shares. Just a second, guys. Yeah, sorry. So then we'll talk about if how we're gonna invest in overseas. What are the different avenues we have? There are some ADR, which we call the American Depository Receipts, the way you can invest in the overseas market. Second option you have is like you can invest in the index funds. Recently, Motilal has issued some of the index fund. So we'll talk about what the index fund is and how you guys can invest and how the things work if you want to invest in the overseas market. Then different types of the markets we have, as we talked about the exchange traded and over the counter. Then we have the market indexes. So this is one of the important topics. I think you guys have heard about the Sensex or the Nifty, right? Or maybe S&P 500, the Dow Jones. So what are these? These are the indexes. So we'll talk about what the index means. How does it actually work? So when you hear in the news that Nifty goes up by 10%, or if we say Nifty reach up to the level of 10,000. So what does that mean exactly? What is the meaning for it, you as a general investor? Then we'll talk about the portfolio construction and the rebalancing, that how do we create a portfolio at the first place? And once it is constructed, how are we going to do the rebalancing? So what happens here is most of your application, which you'll see here, especially in the industry, like when you're going for the interviews or when you're working, a lot of applications would be working on the portfolio construction and the rebalancing side. So a lot of questions you'll be getting from that side. So we have included the specific topic that how this happens and how the application works when you want to balance your portfolios. Then we have, then the next sessions we will be having for the fixed income. So this is one of the slightly, I would say, technical or slightly difficult as compared to equities, because we are not very aware about it. but it's going to be very, very interesting. So this is one of the interesting topics. We'll talk about the bonds. We'll talk about the different terminologies which we use in the bonds, like we have the coupon payments, we have uh, zero coupon bonds, we have the different types of the issuers. So we'll talk about the different terminologies which is being used in the bond market. So that's a very important point for your, specifically for your interviews, because that is from where the interviewer starts. They're not going to start with risk profiling and the other things, but they'll start with the basic terms to know that how much industry exposure you actually have. So we'll talk about the different terminologies we have. Then we'll talk about the different types of bonds, like we have the corporate bonds, we have the government bonds, we have government sponsored agencies bonds, then we have the municipal bonds. So the different type of the bonds in the market, and who are the issuers of those bonds. So like if the government is issuing some bonds, then government is obviously an issuer. And if, let's say, the Reliance is issuing the bond, that's called the corporate issuer, or they issue the corporate bonds. So who are the different issuers in the bond market, and how do we do the risk profiling? So in general terms, if I say government bonds are more safer than the corporate bonds, then why is that a case? Why do we think government bonds are more safe, and how it is evaluated which one is more safer? So obviously that brings us to the bond ratings. So we talk about how the different rating agencies rate the bonds, what are the different criteria we have, and then obviously the most important part, YTM calculation. So what is YTM? YTM is yield to maturity. So I would say the whole fixed income topic revolves around this yield. So first we'll understand what the yield is, what are the different types of yield we have, and how do we calculate that, and how does it actually works in the bond market, why the yield is so important. Then the different bond insurances and the MBS and ABS securities. So MBS and ABS securities are basically the structured bonds, or I would say the mortgage backed securities. So what does that mean? So it's a different class of the bonds altogether, and it's huge in itself. Uh, and the next one session, we will be covering the general strategies. So these strategies can be used both in the equities and the bond market. So they're not specific to one. So we'll be talking about the general terminologies we have, like we'll talk about the buy and hold strategies. What do you mean by the aggressive strategies? What is the meaning of a long position, short position, growth strategy? So we'll talk about some of these strategies we use in the capital markets while investing. How does it work? So we'll talk about those strategies in our session. So one session would be covering those. Then we'll come to the next topic, which is derivatives. So derivatives is a kind of a byproduct of the rest of the topics, as the name suggests. Like it's derive its value from the underlying asset, and underlying asset can be anything. It can be bond, it can be equity, it can be real estate, it can be any other thing. So this is again one of the slightly interesting topic, slightly difficult to understand, but it's really interesting. Uh, so we'll talk about what the derivative contract is, how does the derivative contract works. Like we have the different contracts. We have the forwards, futures, we have the swaps, options. So we'll talk about the basic definitions of the forward and futures. We'll talk about the differences between a forward contract and a future contract. Then we'll talk about what the swaps are. The most important swaps are generally being asked is the CDS, which is a credit default swap, and the interest rate swap. How does they work? How do we calculate the pricing for the forward contracts and the future contracts? So we'll do the forward contract pricing, and then we have the options. If any one of you have heard about the call options or the put options, how does the option works in the market? How does it actually derive its value from the baseline asset? How does the different graphs we plot, like the protective put and the different strategies within the option. So we'll talk about those. Then we'll talk about the forward rate agreements. So these are the probably most of you have not heard about these terms. I understand that because they are not the very common term you hear on a daily basis. you still hear about the shares and maybe the bond, but listening to the derivative terms, it's not very common. But these are important, especially when you're going for the interviews, when you're trying to understand a new topic. So this is important, and this will set your base for the investment banking. The next topic we would be picking is the alternative investments. So uh, bonds, shares, what we consider them as the general traditional investments, because people invest in that. And then there's a separate class of the investments, what we call is alternative investments. So we'll compare what is the difference between the alternative and the traditional investments we have, uh, the different types of the investments we have within the alternative investments. Like we have the real estate. Within real estate, we have a different type of the REIT versus REIT. So we'll talk about what the difference is that. We'll talk about the hedge funds, the high level discussions on the various hedge fund strategies, what are the benefits we have of the hedge funds. Then another class within the alternative investment would be the private equity, which is very much in demand, or I would say very, very common these days, especially with all the startups. You must have heard like the SoftBank has invested in the Flipkart, or Walmart has invested in Flipkart. So all these big investors are investing in the different startups at different level. So that is what comes into the private equity, and what are their strategies to invest in the market. Uh, we'll talk about what the leverage buyout is. What is a venture capitalist? You must have heard about the angel investing and the VCs. These are the common terms we generally hear these days. But along with that, what is a leverage buyout, and what are the different exit strategies these companies chooses, right? Recently, I think Walmart invested in Flipkart, and the SoftBank exited. And why does it exit? What was the need? Is Flipkart is not doing good? So we'll talk about the various strategies these company, im- implement to come out of their businesses, and why do they actually need to come out. Then another class we have within the alternative investments is the commodities. So we'll talk about how do we price the commodities. So commodities include everything. It's like your oil, your gold, silver, wheat, soya, rice. So all these things come within the commodities, and obviously these play a very, very crucial role within the market, and especially when the market is in downturn, like these days we have. So demand for the commodities increases, like the gold price shot up uh, in last couple of months. So we'll talk about how do we price the commodities, what are the different terms we have, the backwardation and the contango, how does it work. So this again gonna take around almost 1 to 2 sessions we have. And then we'll again come back to our general things, where we'll talk about the different kind of risk we have. In fact, a lot of applications you might be working in future, or you are currently working on, are related to the risk or the regulatory application. So different kind of risk involved when you're investing in the market, like either in equity market or in the fixed income market. Like you have, when you're investing in, let's say, the forward contract, so you have a counterparty risk or the credit risk. When you are involving in the equity market, so obviously you have a market risk, right? Let's say if you bought the share of Infosys today, and tomorrow the price of Infosys goes down, so it's a price risk. Then you have an interest rate risk. If you are buying a bond for a certain company or certain corporate, and the interest rate keeps on changing in the market, so then that's an interest rate risk. Then we have a forex risk, where the currencies keeps on fluctuating. INR is fluctuating versus USD, and how it is impacting you as an investor, you as an exporter, and you as an importer. So the different key people involved in the market, and how does, whenever the currency fluctuates, how does it impact you or the general market. Then we'll talk about the liquidity risk. Liquidity is something that, let's say if I have a house today, and I want to sell it for some urgent need, I need money. How fast I can sell it, especially in the current scenario. Real estate is considered to be a non-liquid asset. So because it might take you almost 6 months to 1 year to sell a house. But if you have a gold, you can sell it within a day. If you have shares, you can sell it immediately, right? So different asset classes have different liquidity. And within the asset classes, obviously some investments are more liquid, then some investments are less liquid. So there is a liquidity risk which the investor bears. Then obviously the regulators are involved in that. We have the regulation risk as well. Then we'll talk about the different types of scams which happened in the past and how what we have learned from them, and any recent developments we have. So this is what we have. And apart from that, the two topics which have not been listed here is we'll be talking about the forex market, and with equities we would be talking about the trade life cycle. So that's one of the important topics whenever you are going for your interviews. That's gonna come up. Like most of you have worked either in the front office, back office, or the middle office. So we'll talk about what does these mean, how does these work, and what kind of different applications are there for these area. So this is all about the courses we have. Apart from that, what we're going to cover is obviously we're going to do the demo for your testing applications. And now when we are trying to when we are merging with the business analyst, so our plan is that the assignments we'll be giving you is in terms of giving you the investment banking application so that you can work on, you can get the practical hands-on. You'll be given an assessment test. You will be assessed, and your scores will be provided to you after these sessions. You'll be getting a certificate course for completion from the Refer Me group, and interview preparation and the CV assistance. So we'll be giving you the descriptions for some of the live projects or the demo projects so that you can add into your CVs if you want, and you can try and utilize them. So this is all about the course. Any questions from you guys are most welcome. Let me know what any doubts, any questions, anything you want to cover extra, or we can take up depending on what the requests are.
Chiti, it was absent. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, please. Anyone was asking question.
Yes, Meenal here.
Yes.
So in this slide, you have given that if we completed this course, then we can we can do the registration for the NCFM certifications.
Oh yes.
So
yeah.
what
So
is this NCFM?
Okay, so I forgot to tell you that. So basically, NCFM certifications are carried out by our National Stock Exchange. So if you go to their website, there are a lot of certifications, especially for the beginners in the investment banking. So what the content we have included, because we are considering that this batch would be of the more of the beginners, and you want to start into the investment banking. So what I've done is I've taken a course in a way that after this, once you register for the NCFM certification, you should be able to do it easily. You shouldn't be too much bothered about the new things. Like our course content is very much aligned with that. Also, the assessment test we'll be taking. So we'll be taking reference from the NCFM certification questions in the past, and we'll be giving for you tests. So you'll be prepared for that. And I would highly recommend each one of you, if you attend this session, do go for NCFM certifications after that. So there are a lot of certifications in investment banking, not just one, but this is more like a beginner's thing. So once you do it, first of all, you can write it in your resume, which obviously striking, gives a slight edge to the person who is going to the CV. He knows, okay, you have given a certification, so you must be aware about the basics at least. So that gives you slightly an edge over there, and that's what the NCFM certifications are. Yeah. Any other question, guys?
My question.
And this complete course is of how many hours?
That's gonna take, as Nitesh mentioned, around 20 to 22 hours.
Okay, and it will be I want to know that it will be a daily a weekday class or the weekend class?
Usually till now we have planned only on the weekends. So I think most likely we're gonna be weekends only. But depending on the batch, I think Nitesh can schedule the batches depending on the audience we have. So that's more on to the Nitesh, how we want to plan a batch. But we do it on the weekends only.
Okay.
So it will be preferable is we do a weekend batch. That is the more preferable, and And any doubt on that?
So I have a question, Jadid Desai.
Yeah, Jaideep.
I have a very generic question. Like as I told in my intro, I am basically a QA guy, 10+ years
Yeah.
of experience in. Want to move in BA. So how helpful would be? That is one part, and second part is we have worked in payment domain, card and payment
I
domain
didn't.
that related to
Uh,
like
I
capital.
didn't get your second question, Jaideep. First, so I've got that how it's gonna help you to be into a BA domain, and what was the second question?
Yeah. Second question. We have worked in payment domain, card and payment domain for over 6 years. So I just want to know how this investment banking domain. So is it related or how I can capitalize that experience? So like
Okay. So just a second, guys. Uh, yeah. Sorry, guys. Okay. So you were talking about the first question was you want to go into the BA, right? You are working as a QA. You want to go into BA as in investment banking domain, or you just want to go into a BA?
so I actually, as my second question is about payment and card domain. So I had a thing in mind. Maybe I can capitalize those 6 7 years of experience because recently I moved in telecom domain. So
Okay.
in
So
good.
see, definitely, what I can tell you, payment domain is different from the capital markets, no doubt. Agree on that, and there is no denying to that. Obviously, payments is different from capital markets, but if you'll see the core of both the things, it's ultimately the banking domain. So when you write on your CV, you generally write like what I do is I write is a BFSI domain. I never write just an investment banking or the banking because I also worked like for a couple of years into the retail banking. So one of the way you can use it, like you say, the banking and the financial sector. So this includes everything, and you can mention as a payments and investment banking separately as well. So they are different, no doubt. But yes, because you already have an experience in payment domains, so you must be aware about a lot of terms which probably we're gonna use here, so you can obviously leverage on that and you can learn much more quickly here. Plus when you already have a working experience of payments, and then you have a theoretical, or at least you can mention you have 6 months to 1 year experience in the investment banking, so that's anyways you're going to give an edge on that. So any company which is looking for specifically for the investment banking profile, they will give weightage to the payments domain as well. And if you are obviously going for a payment domain, so investment banking would help you out there too.
Okay, and first part, like moving from QA to BA, because I have quite substantial experience. I have over 10+ years of experience.
So I think that part Shraddha would be able to answer better because she is like SME in BA. So how to move and how to make that move, she'll be able to help you out. Shraddha, please
Thank
over to you.
you.
Shraddha, are you there? Shraddha, are
Hello,
you
can
there?
you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Can you repeat it again? Hello?
My question is like I have 10+ years of experience in QA domain, mainly manual,
Mm-hmm.
and what is the roadmap for QA to BA domain? That is
Mm-hmm. Your voice is coming little bit low. I just heard that you have a 10 plus years experience in the QA domain, manual, right? After that, what is your
Yeah,
question?
in BA domain. So what be the roadmap for me? How can I go about that?
Yeah, so you have a QA domain plus manual and a little bit, I believe, in the BA, what I heard. So you can learn more advanced topic of the business analysis. You can pretty much prepare for all the diagrams that we have. Okay, and then you can apply for the BA certifications. Okay, and once you have the certification, then you have a very good growth in the market. And you can apply as a senior business analyst directly because you have a pretty much very good experience. So that will be really boost in your career. I'm not sure who has asked the question. I believe Jaydeep, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was from Jaideep, I guess, Shraddha. So Akash, Meenal, Navneet, Sapna, Shushmita, any question, any doubt? Because Chitej and Shraddha both are here. If you have any doubt, you can ask your questions.
Not from my side,
Yeah.
Nitesh.
Kshitij, I want to know about the fee structure that and see few of us are having a experience in business analyst, and if we don't want to attend that business analyst session, and if we directly want to attend the investment banking session, so we want to know about that.
Yeah, so for that, again, Nitesh should be able to better answer that. I think you can contact him directly with all your queries related to the fees and how you want to go into the session. So that's on to the Nitesh.
Okay. Okay, Nitish, then I will connect with you directly. Is it okay?
Yeah, I think Nitesh is not here right now, so I'll let him know. Not a problem. You can just message him or ping him anytime you want,
And
and you can.
Chitej, I'm here for the moment. So for a fee and everything, I will post in the group after discussing with the trainer, because this is the first time we are launching this course. All right, but believe me, it will be affordable. And apart from that, we will offer 3 discounts. That's one-time payment and a referral and early bird. So 3 discounts we will offer.
Okay.
And guys, one more thing. Actually, I'm sorry, I have to rush. It was not planned because some emergency. I have to go. Otherwise, I can share one screenshot with you guys, where I will show you that in a week we share at least 10 to 15 jobs for a business analyst in our group. Right, so that you will be additional benefited if you join through these workshops.
Okay.
Yeah. So, any more doubt? Any of you?
Yeah,
Yeah, Jadid,
Yeah, please
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
so you told about certain certification. So when I searched on Google, there are a lot of certification for BA profile. Can someone help me with the certification which will be helpful for this Indian market? So there are a lot of certifications for BA relevant here.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes,
surely,
Jaydeep.
surely you can ping individual. Definitely.
I can hear, yes.
I'm saying you just ping individual. We will.
Oh, sure. Got it. Helping.
Okay. So Akash, Jaideep, Meenal, Navneet, Sapna, Shushmita. Any question? Any doubt?
No from my side.
Okay, fantastic. So first of all, I seriously would like to thank you to Chitij and Shraddha for taking their time and given us about the topics and to let us know in the business analysis and investment banking. Second, I just want to say thanks to each one of you, Akash, Jaideep, Meenal, Navneet, Sapna, Sushmita, because today you guys are thinking to change your career and giving it a shape to your career, right? That is a really very important. and the group of WhatsApp group, you guys have came forward and shown an interest that you want to attend the demo. That is reflecting you are serious with your career, right? So I really appreciate to each one of you. I will connect individual after 15-20 minutes, and I will let you know the further process, how you can continue with the workshop and why it will be beneficial. So thank you so much for joining this demo. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.